Hello everyone, my name is Matti McLean. I am a Canadian Eurovision, and today I am talking about game controllers because I'm sick of yelling about other, more tedious affairs, such as the American Song Contest, which is a thing that is happening, and I will probably have to yell about more later. But what I can talk about today is game controllers, because every good game needs a good controller. Every system has an identity, and that identity is something you feel, and it's tangible, and I have a history with all these controllers. So I'm actually excited to share my opinions of them, my memories of them, and how they go forward. So I did notice here they only have, they don't have every system ever made, but that's fine. Let's see what they have here, and we'll go through. So Switch controllers, Joy-Cons in general are extremely versatile, extremely good. As one unit together, they're awesome. As two units apart, they're okay. But what an interesting designed concept behind these controllers in the first place. So wireless, great. That's a thing. Wireless controllers have only come about in the last 10 years. Or so. Probably a bit, I'm being a bit generous. About 15 years, I'd say. But, that created a huge difference between having something that needed to be tethered to the system, and now we just have something where the system doesn't even need to be tethered to a TV. It can just be carried around and used, and even though I personally will use the Switch Pro controller more often, the Joy-Cons are fine. They do a good job, they're solid, they're interesting, so it's a good place to start us off. This is Xbox. I see which one it is here. I'm just going to talk about the Xbox Duke because, oh my god, this controller was so big. We're talking size of your face dinner plate. Well, maybe not quite. Maybe it was that big. These things were chunky. They were huge. They were awkward to hold on to. They were awkward to handle. But they were effective, and they're really, they're very well done. So, yeah, all the Xbox controllers, well, do I really think, I have to be honest, it's a clunker of a controller. It is really hard to hold on to unless you have really big hands. So, keep that in mind for what it is. They do get better over time. So, the Xbox controllers do tend to be better. And, the Xbox One series, whatever, I would say that these two are around the same level. They both feel the same in your hands. The 360 controller is much more free. It's a lot easier to hold on to. It's a lot easier to get your hands around. But, the newest no, S is too high. I would say A. It's still a little tedious to hold on to, but the controller is just much higher quality now. I'm talking such a nerd. I'm talking this much about game controllers. So just imagine what a topic that is actually important. Oh, man. Super Nintendo controllers were not good. They're classic, but if you hold them now, they definitely have that hard-to-handle feeling. There's definitely a feeling to them where Nintendo really didn't know what to do. And, even the original Nintendo controllers today, yeah, it's nostalgic to hold on to them, but are they good controllers? No. They hurt. They will cramp your hands over time. That's just kind of one of those facts where, in general, they start really bad. And you know what? This trend is going to continue with the Sega Genesis. The Sega Genesis did not have an easy controller to hold on to. It did cause things like cramping. It did cause things like... when you play it for a long period of time, you can really feel it in your hands. You get that hand click. Or at least I did. That's how I always was. But, yeah, I can honestly say that this controller was never one of my favorites. And the Sega Saturn, I love how they chose the Sega Saturn. Oh, all the shady things to do. It's also not great. It's got an odd button placement. It's still wired. It's still tethered to the system. So, not great. But overall, it's not the worst. I think the company that probably started with the best controller out the gate was the PlayStation. It didn't have any DualShock, so you couldn't move around using the sticks, the nubs. But even just with how they had the system set up here, it was a very good place to start. It's definitely more comfortable than a lot of the other beginning controllers. But is it a great controller? Not necessarily. The PlayStation 2 controller obviously builds upon this by getting better. There is a lot... Oh, I guess they have the DualShock down here too. I'll put the DualShock PlayStation controller in with the PlayStation 2 controller, simply because they are both very similar. The complaints for one are still the complaints for the other. It just gets a little bit more streamlined over time. Is B high? B might be high. You know what? I would say these could both be in the C tier and not lose too much, but the high C tier. So like we'll keep these ones over on the side. Going up next, it looks like we have PlayStation. I'm going to put the PlayStation 3 in next because I feel like that's the evolution, and the PlayStation 4 would be on top of that. Because as time goes on, it does get smoother, it does get easier. The analog controllers get very, very smooth. It's very, very flexible. I actually am one of the people who likes the PlayStation 4 controller touchpad on there, so I will give them full credit for that. And yeah, I'll keep that sitting where it is for now. Moving on to the N64 controller. I'm going to try not to let nostalgia blind me to this, because I'd be like, oh my god, S tier, of course. But no, it's a weird controller. It's not a good controller. It's weird. The control stick will wear over time. You can't really hold it in any specific way that gives you access to all the buttons, which is weird. It's weird. It's a weird-ass controller. And yeah, I don't really know what else to say for that. The GameCube controller, I think there's a reason that this one is still holding up to this day as like the standard for Smash Brothers. I think that it's because it's so smooth and easy. It's very, very colorful. They actually designed this so that the buttons, the colors reminiscent of, the colors were supposed to remind you of what the button did. So like A was a go forward button, so they made it green. B is like a stop button, so they made it red. And then the yellow analog nub here, well, you know, not the best idea for what they were trying to do. Kind of encapsulated what they were doing with the N64 with the four-way yellow buttons, and that kind of just sits really nicely here. It's very smooth. It's actually very comfortable, and I would rather have that than a lot of other ones in this journey here. The Dreamcast controller is another controller. I'm trying desperately not to let my nostalgia blind me to it, but it was really comfortable. There was something about it that's very smooth. The controls were very responsive. The VMU device was weird. That was something that would actually slide into the controller so that you could play like little Tamagotchi games on the road. Like the Sonic games were doing that with the Chows or whatever. But like it's fine. I'm still gonna stand this a little bit, but it's not good. Like moving it higher than a B would be egg on my face. The Wii controller was actually really revolutionary. And not just because it was nicknamed the Revolution before it came out, but it was actually quite substantially game-changing, where they'd release this and then suddenly everyone else is just like, oh, motion controls, we want these, we want this to be a thing, we want this to be controlling this way, we want this to go this way. So in terms of the controller itself, the Wii controller is actually pretty revolutionary. So I will give that a substantial boost in terms of like, yes, this was cool, this was interesting. The Wii U definitely took that a step back. It still came with a lot of interesting features, especially related to the screen. When it worked really well. But overall, the actual Wii U controller was bulky, it was hard to work with, it wasn't a lot of fun to play with, and they never really got that far with doing more with the screen than just having really basic options. So yes, touchscreen is a cool idea. Did it work as effectively as we wanted it to? No. Was the name confusing, Wii U versus Wii? Absolutely. Is there a lot to say that's good about the Wii U? Absolutely. But will I hear? Absolutely not. So I will go on record and say that the Wii U had a lot going for it, but overall was held back by a bit of a clumsier stance. But probably my preferred controller right now, and probably one of my preferred controllers all the time, is the Nintendo Switch Pro Controller. Looking at this here, I am actually wondering which of these would be bumped up. If I had to bump two of them up to the S tier, what would they be? I would say probably Switch Pro, because it is I like the Switch's versatility with the Joy-Cons, but this just provides a better gameplay experience. And the latest Xbox controller is really comfortable. I will give it that. I haven't played on it as much for longer periods of time, but I don't know if it's S tier. I would be more likely to bump the PlayStation Senior controllers up there and then go from there. So this is my ranking, and now I am going to test to see how I compare against the rest of the people. Well, from where we are, I definitely wasn't expecting this to be the outcome here. I'm just going to move myself down here. This is the score. So I'm glad that the Nintendo Pro and the PlayStation controller are up there, but it seems like the majority of people have already stacked all of this with S tier and A tier, and they made Dreamcast last. That's weird. Like, some of these controllers, I'm just like, really, this is what you're going with? This is how you're breaking this up? I don't know what they're doing to judge this so that every controller is just the best. But not every controller can be the best. You have to kind of remove a bit of your own nostalgia to go forward with this to compare. But you know what? Whatever. It's fine. It's a silly little quiz online. And yeah, this is me. My name is Maddie. I rated some controllers today, so if you want to see me rate other things, just let me know, and I'll give it a shot. Alright, hope you liked what you see. If you did, like, subscribe, do all that stuff, because it does help me out on my way to 100 subscribers so that I can actually go by a name other than L_62, whatever. It's like a million letters right now. I just want to get down to ranked. So, yeah, that's my goal. That's what I'm aiming for. And if you want to help me out, you know how to do it. Alright, well, thank you very much for watching, folks. You guys have been great, and I'll see you later. Bye.